Hey there, welcome back to Blacklist Universe. By your command, I am doing Batman from, well, not Marvel Rivals, DC Rivals today. I'm redesigning Batman from DC Comics into a style reminiscent of the Marvel Rivals characters. This is requested by the chat, well, not the chat, this is requested by the comment section. And actually, you guys in the comment section, you gave me some really great suggestions, like using inspiration from the Black Panther and the Punisher. Whoever made that comment, thank you very much. That was very inspirational in my design here. I sort of gave him the overall Black Panther physique. It's hard to tell if I gave him the Punisher physique too, because the Punisher's covered up in all kinds of like gear and whatnot. But yeah, let me try to go through this as I'm drawing it. The helmet, I did take that inspiration from the Black Panther helmet, or the Black Panther mask, and I kind of added some of my own personal takes that I've always kind of given Batman when it comes to, if you go through and you look at my issues of JLA when I was doing actual normal Batman, then you see I do these particular cuts to the shape that I think makes sense with like the cheekbones and the planes of the face and all of that stuff. If you guys have never studied the planes of the face and you're an artist, I highly suggest that you do. Just go look it up. They have models online. Also, the basic shape of the Rivals Batman, I mean, of all the Rivals characters, frankly, like I've said in a couple of videos now, they are sort of that John Boy Myers, Joe Madureira. Okay, Joe Madureira brought this body shape into the fore back in the 90s in comics, and he kind of led a little revolution, but we don't need to go into a comic book history thing. But that is kind of the motif that the Marvel Rivals is built off of. It's not just anime, it's not just manga. It is more or less, it kind of looks like it was highly inspired by Joe Madureira over the years. But one thing Joe did do, he did draw Batman. So I didn't have to go back and reference. I remember what Joe's Batman looked like. So I'm not copying him or anything, but I did give him the same, what are those things called? The scallops or the blades on his, the fins on his gloves, right? Joe does this cool kind of hooked thing with the gloves. So I'm like, I'm going to do this because it reminds me of that and it looks cool. And good artists borrow and great artists steal. So I'm trying to be a great artist by stealing from other great artists. On the general design, I'm trying to avoid the mistakes they made in Injustice where they just covered Batman up with armor. It was so clunky and so not Batman to me. It just kind of drove me nuts. I get his mask being more, of a helmet. That makes sense, because really the only thing that has to move are his eyes and his mouth. And it's much more protective, right? This guy's jumping off of buildings, for crying out loud. So that makes sense to me. Give him a helmet that can protect him. They've always had this trouble trying to swoop up the head, from the helmet down to the shoulders and make his head posable and whatnot. And it kind of looks a little funky in some of the movies. Was the Dark Knight Returns, I guess, where they gave him, it ended up looking like he had a bobblehead. You want Batman to have a bucket head, right? That's when the back of the head kind of goes straight down or broadens out in a bucket shape to the shoulders. That's kind of the look, and you want him to be able to move his head. So in here, I gave him the helmet, but it goes down into sort of a protective collar that becomes the cape. And then obviously I go in, I try to keep the basic highly mobile parts of his costume as just maybe some sort of bulletproof material, maybe a mix of colloidal silica and Kevlar, something that gives him mobility. I watched a video on them trying to remake Keanu Reeves, his bulletproof suit, and they actually did manage to do it. It was highly bulletproof. But they didn't use the colloidal silica mix. That's something I think that that needs to be experimented with. And I figure someone like Bruce Wayne could afford to do the experimentation and get it just right, so he can have a highly flexible yet bulletproof outfit on without it being clunky and like looking like he's a robot or a man in a suit of armor. But however, you do want the mech tech look for this because it is Marvel Rivals, DC Rivals. And so I did give him more mech techy gauntlets. I beefed out his utility belt. Actually, I really beefed it out. I even gave it low straps because, you know what? Instead of just having a limited amount of stuff around his waist, I'm going to put his tether gun, whatever you call that thing, like down where a holster would be, because it's a big clunky thing. He can't just like stick it on his back, whatever. So it gives him a little bit extra. It makes more sense to me, frankly. Keeps him mobile still. And I don't know if you noticed real quick, but I did also give him pauldrons. Because, again, Batman is going to, first of all, design-wise, it gives him that little bitty poke out in the corners so that his shoulders aren't just completely smooth. It gives him that sort of bat shoulder motif thing. But at the same time, it is very useful because if you're ducking and diving and jumping and jiving and, you know, doing parkour and landing on things, you want to do tuck rolls, which means you want to protect your shoulders when you're falling or jumping and landing from great distances. The best way to absorb impact is to tuck roll. And doing that, protecting your shoulders, is a great idea. Plus just overall pauldrons in minimalistic armor, where it's like you can't cover everything because you need to be super flexible. All right, you're going to want pauldrons, you're going to want gauntlets, you're going to want greaves. You want, you know, the parts of your body that don't have to move but are going to be coming into a lot of contact, especially in combat. Then these parts you want to have more armored. And that's why I gave him those freaking Beefeater gloves where you got the, you know, have you seen these gloves? There's commercials for them where you can actually, the gloves themselves are so tough. You can like punch through anything. Well, I mean, without breaking your hand, right? The gloves themselves absorb the impact and you can like punch through plate glass and whatnot. And I'm like, you know what? Batman would have those because he's got to punch through some jaws. He's got to punch through some, I don't know. He needs some tough knuckles on them gloves and nice, you know, armored and still mobile because they're his work gloves. This is Bruce's work, right? Again, back to the double utility belt. I think this is a great innovation. I think DC should probably use that. And of course, the giant Batman belt buckle. That's I just thought, hey, you know, you've already got the bat motif. Let's just double it up here. And I don't do the big yellow circle around his logo on his chest. So what the heck? He's already got yellow. He's gonna have yellow on his belt. Actually, I kind of used a little slightly darker yellow because I don't want it to be just this big bright thing, but I wanted to stick with the basic color motif for Batman. So yeah, put the logo in yellow on his belt. That makes sense. It looks good. And again, here his what do you call that thing? The you know, it shoots his tether up to the. I just call it a tether launcher. It shoots his tether up so that he can climb up buildings and whatnot. So yeah, I made a big round thing because it spooled up a bunch of wire where he can shoot and then climb and do whatever. But he'd want that easily accessible. You know, not like something he has to like unclip from the back of his thing. It's just like, bam, just like a holster. Psh. He doesn't use any guns, so there it is. And again, because I get to use the bulletproof material, I get to then also make him, you know, you get to see his musculature, which you want to see on Batman. You don't want to see a bunch of clunky armor on his chest and everywhere. For his greaves or his shin guards going down onto his boots, yeah, nobody cares. And then, yeah, I also added knee protectors as well, knee guards, whatever. Because I'm just always thinking, it's like he's not superhuman. He's a regular dude. If you're a regular dude and you're dealing with all of this stuff, you're doing the stuff the Batman has to do. There's certain just parts that you want to have protected. Otherwise, you don't want your character running around crying about shin splints and busted knees and broken shoulders and all that kind of stuff, right? He's a martial artist. I would assume he's like a parkour master, although I've never seen that. But he's always jumping from rooftop to rooftop. So, I mean, didn't Batman basically invent parkour, right? That's the thing. He's Batman. Again, these blades on his gauntlets, inspired by Joe Madara. Thank you, Joe. And then I used the typical... Okay, so I shortened his cape up a little bit from sometimes you see people doing his cape where it actually drapes on the floor. I mean, I know that looks cool, but it's so ultimately impractical that it would just get tangled up. I mean, other than the fact that the cape helps him to fly from place to place or float, glide, whatever, then yeah, it would just be really a hindrance. So you have to have something that makes makes a little bit of sense. I did something a little different here on the coloring as well. I only used a basic 2-tone. You guys know how I usually use the tint tone hue, the 3-tone layer color scheme. Well, this time I only used 2-tone. I didn't want Batman to be terribly flashy, right? I just wanted to be like light and shadow because it's Batman. And I hit the lightings from the side. I had intended that from the beginning when I started drawing him. So it's always good to have a color source intention when you're drawing and not to leave that to coloring. I've had so much trouble with colorists over the years not having a clue what the light intention I've given. That's why it's why I generally stopped dropping blacks into my, or using so many blacks in my illustrations, is because I would spend like all this time doing a cool core shadow or something, and then I'd get the colors back from the colorist, and the colorist had no clue what I was indicating with my core shadow, and so they just color the whole thing like one color. It's one thing when you have like an awesome colorist like a Christian Leitner or a Laura Martin or any number of actually really talented colorists that know basic human anatomy. I don't know, color theory. It's one thing when you have somebody like that, but when you've got just somebody that I don't know, honestly, you don't even know how they got the job, other than they know the difference between purple and blue, and they seriously don't know anything about color theory or and they you know what? I'm not going to sit here and complain about it. Colorists are just the bane of my existence, though. Maybe I should color everything myself. But anyways, I just did this simple 2-tone and then the highlights with the white. And then even in the case of the white on this, I was like, you know what? Batman can't be like too shiny, right? Yeah, he's got hard metal parts and you want to indicate that they're hard metal parts. So I do the white on there. But you don't want he's supposed to be a creature of the night. Well, not a creature of the night. He's like a night character. And so you want him to be dark, be able to hide in the shadows, and not just glistening and glowing if you hit him with a spotlight or you hit him with whatever. You don't want him giving away his position in the dark because he's got some shiny bit on him. So I actually did all the white highlights, and then I toned down the opacity on them so that it kind of fades him out a little bit. Yeah, I think all in all, this Batman, first thing I love about Batman, he's so easy to color because it's just grays and then yellow and then a little flesh tone. But all in all, yeah, I think this was a successful take on a Rivals version of Batman. This DC Rivals thing, I think DC might want to think about reaching out to that studio and saying, hey, how about doing a DC Rivals game? And then how about using some of these Mike S. Miller concept designs for the Rivals game? That would be pretty cool. This is actually a lot of fun. This is more fun for me than redesigning the Marvel characters, because the Marvel characters are already good. They're already solid and they look good. So taking something that hasn't been done yet and turning it into a new design or a new style, this is actually more fun than I was having on the Marvel Rivals things. If you're enjoying these DC Rivals game characters, let me know in the comment section below if you want me to do like a bunch more of them, or who you might want me to do specifically. I think coming up next I will finish the DC Trinity, Superman, Batman, and then Wonder Woman. But there he is, ladies and gentlemen, in all his glory, DC Rivals version of Batman. Tell me what you think in the comments section below. Oh, and hey, I noticed a lot of you guys have not yet subscribed. You're watching these videos over and over and over again and forgetting to hit that subscribe button. If you want to make sure you don't miss the next in the DC or Marvel Rivals series, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment in the comment section below with what you want to see next, maybe after Wonder Woman. And y'all have a great day. I hope to see y'all on the next video.